So, hello everyone. I think everything is working. I will only make my mic a little bit closer. Maybe adjust the cam. So, long time no see. I was not streaming for a really long time, so just some things. So yeah, I will be continuing on this guy, on the ogre or giant or however to call him. I honestly don't remember what my plan was for this guy. And also if the audio will be a little bit quiet. Because I have my mic a bit further away and I can't really move it closer. So, can I buff it? No, I can't. Settings. Okay, I don't think it does really matter that much. So honestly, I don't remember what my plan for this guy was in terms of like how to make him. So I guess I will just try to make him. I only just separated him from the ground because I have this something in here and this something in here. I guess more painting, less thinking in this case it will be. And I also placed a feet of this guy, of the elephant on the ground, because I kind of feel like making him a little bit more like an elephant, so he will be like maybe bigger or whatever. I feel it kind of fits to the idea of him being like a giant. So as always, if anyone has any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask them. If you have like an yeah, just if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. All the links and everything is down below in the description, so feel free to just go there and feel free to click the links. There is a Discord channel if anyone is in here is like new to the channel. So if you would like to interact a bit with some people, there are the opportunities to interact with them in there. And also for this guy, I kind of want to change the bluish hue of his skin. So let me cyan, yeah, because I'm using now the color adjustment to make him a little bit more like red or orange-ish, something along those lines, to see if maybe not. Okay, once again. Control U, those should be blues, not cyans. Yeah, so he will be a little bit more like actually the skin of an elephant, because I do think it should work a little bit nicer, so I should go more into like those yellows hues, but I can't seem to be able to grab them, so I don't want to change those. I will increase the, I kind of like him with this blue. I will increase the saturation to 100 so I can see clearly where am I going with it. So yeah, I will go like this, press OK, Control U, take greens and move greens to the left, because I don't have any other greens, so it should be fine. Yeah, so this type of a color, I feel like it does fit rather nicely. So yeah, and also on the left side of the screen, if also anyone in here is like relatively new, I will be keeping the zoomed out version of it. So when it's zoomed out, I can see how all the details that I'm painting are pretty much behaving in real time. So I can, it is just easier. It's a little bit more convenient to work this way. And also, if I will be a little bit slower on answering the questions and everything, is because now the chat that I usually see on screen, that I had seen on the screen on the side, on a second screen is a little bit further away from me, so I might not immediately see if anyone writes anything. So be a little bit more patient. I also changed some settings and everything. I feel like I should. I felt like changing them might increase the quality and everything of everything. So if it's not the case, also let me know. And if anyone somehow is watching on Twitch or somewhere in the Twitch, let me know if it does work, because I had tons of problems with Twitch. So yeah, it was a little bit. It might not work properly on Twitch. If this is the case, just go for YouTube, because YouTube, everything should be much more fine. So I guess because also I kind of have already established how I want this guy to look like and what is the light setup. It's pretty much like on this leg, like this. If I rotate it, so I will just, I guess, render him and just make him a little bit more beautiful. So we could all see how he does look like. And also the colors that are on this elephant are really nice, and they do fit this guy, because in original he had like a brown skin, but I don't really feel it fit the character. I think making him a little bit more like animalistic, where you can see all like the thick skin and everything with all the gray textures on him, it should be a little bit better and a little bit more interesting. And also for other things, the quality of the stream might be slightly worse in terms of the like general amount of pixels, because recently a friend of mine who is doing some tattoos wanted to sell the Cintiq. So now I'm trying to draw and everything to do on Cintiq and to see how it will work. To this point, it's really nice. It's really interesting tool, but it's really a weird transition to go from not looking on what I draw to go 100% into what I draw. And it's kinda messing up with like pretty much everything that I have been used to for the past like 7 years or even more. So I think in general, I feel like I'm working a little bit slower, because yeah, the switch of looking at what you draw is weird, but it kind of gives a little bit more like traditional vibe to it. So yeah, in this way, this is really nice. So hopefully it will in the long run increase the quality of the artworks and everything that I do. And recently I have been also turbo busy with pretty much everything happening around in life and whatnot. So this is also the reason why I've not really felt like streaming or just doing anything. I just felt like I need to rest much more, focus a little bit more on other things, because there was a lot of different stuff to take care of. But now everything is slightly more in a restful position, so I can maybe again be a little bit more engaged in doing streams on YouTube and everything and whatnot. So we will see. We will see how it will go. So for this guy, as I said, I don't remember if I do have any like solid plans. Yellows maybe. The hue of the yellow I have is not really ideal, so should be a little bit more, slightly more reddish. Yeah, deal. So we will see. And also, again, if any of you have any things that you would like me to critique on, feel free to send the link, or so I might look at it and maybe do whatever, if you want me to do something like this. So yeah. Also, a really cool thing about Syntax and everything is the immersion. It's a little bit better. So it's much easier to actually sit for a longer period of times or stand as I do now to paint and to draw and everything, because it just feels more like drawing and painting, less like sitting next to a PC. So definitely this is like a huge type of a thing. This is like a huge upgrade in terms of like the general comfort of work. For stuff like bird and everything, because I'm painting a bird now, brushes like this one, where you actually have more than like one brush stroke in a sense, at the same time are really helpful, because they also give you those nice texture that you usually will miss with everything. And because I want this guy to have like a really heavy, really thick beard made out of like really thick hair, those type of brushes are pretty much ideal. And this one where it has like 3 strands, because it also kind of allows me to sculpt a bit more the forms with what I do have in here. Separate the club from him. Move the, so let me make a duplicate, or maybe I should actually do some of those so I can keep the opacity a bit better. Should be slightly better. And I also removed some of the opacity from this thing, from the club, because I want to see the silhouette and the outline for the club. And also let me go to audio. I kind of wonder how I did it back in the days that I managed to boof the thing, the microphone, how to increase. I don't remember how to boof the audio. I think there was like a projector filters, maybe. Edit filters. Is there a gain? Yo, now it should be slightly better. Oh yeah, 15. I don't know what. Oh, this might be a little bit too much. Yeah, I increased the gain to like 12 from 6. So I don't know if it's better or if it's not. Let me know if the audio is slightly more clear or whatever. Because as I said, I almost forgot how all of those programs and the settings work. So yeah. And all the fine details like fine hair strands and everything I will pretty much add in the end. So I don't want to really go extremely deep now with all the different settings. I mean, with all the different silhouettes that I do have in here. So I mostly want to get the general. And for any brides or stuff like this, I will add them pretty much also later, at the later stages, because first I want to make sure that the thing is rendered relatively nicely. And at first I will kind of focus on like what colors and everything. So for example, the fingers will be a little bit more flat, and then I will try to add all the effects that might happen with the skin and whatnot, like the reflections and all the fancy stuff that is going on. reference this guy a bit more. It's a bit hard to get back on track with stuff like this because honestly I don't remember the last time when I used to render something like this. In my workplace I had really a lot of different projects, but none of them were purely like rendering type of a tasks, so it is a bit harder for me to go back on track with those, but we will do best. I mean, I will do my best, and if you will enjoy any of those, then yeah. I also feel like I should experiment a bit more with some more fancy brushes to get some like more crazy textures happening here and there. It would be definitely a nice thing to start incorporating in the artworks, so though those will get a little bit more interesting to look at. Brushes like this, those should really work wonders. Do I have anything that kind of resembles the club? Not really. I need some references. Basically, the way you can go with creatures that have like 3 fingers, you can just grab something and pretend that 2 fingers are like 1 finger. So it does give a pretty nice idea on what is going on exactly with it. So yeah, patient should be a bit bigger. Because hands generally are kind of hard to draw or hard to paint, especially for me. I trained them for quite a long period of time, but I still don't feel confident in drawing hands. So they are just hard. So yeah. Yeah, and for the nails, I do really fancy the colors of the nails of the elephant actually. So I do feel those are kinda-ish okay. Mine should be slightly more desaturated and a little bit darker, because those in the reference are pretty much reflecting the ground from the light from the ground. So this is why they are like much brighter, much more like orangey in color, because the ground is pretty much like in the orange shapes, orange hues. So mine should be a little bit more bony color if I want to make them look kinda realistic. But drawing hands like this is always a hard task. It's always a hard thing to do. So I think this finger should be in the shadow. Also with the shape of the nails, you can tell a lot of the things about the geometry of the object that you are drawing, because they kind of like wrap around on the thing that you want to draw. So those are actually relatively a good tool to show the geometry. And I feel like I need to separate the hand, maybe with this part of the mace from the rest of the characters, so I can go behind him. Let's flip the canvas. Flipping the canvas is always a good idea, Especially, yeah, if you feel like you're stuck kind of maybe on a painting or whatever, because it refreshes your perception of the image. So this is always a nice thing to do. Let me actually search for some sort of a photo. I kind of hear the audio is a bit weird. Elephant stop. Yeah, also now because the audio can reflect, can bounce a little bit more off the screen, so it might affect the quality of the audio, but I think I will just experiment with it later. I will just search for an elephant and it should be enough. Also, what is really cool about elephants is they usually roam in the environment extremely similar to the one that I want to do. So this is pretty much like a perfect color reference for myself. Maybe I should just slightly desaturate it, but really slightly. But the thing that I wanted to look for is the actual belly of the elephant. This might work. Kind of wanted to get this nice looking texture in here, so to see how it will kind of like behave. Whoops, let's go slightly to the side. Yeah. I also will go a little bit over the already rendered, I mean not the rendered, but a little bit over the hair and everything, because I kind of want to re-render some of the parts again later to make the overlapping look much better, because one of the things that is kind of like hard to make nicely is to paint stuff that is overlapping at the same time, especially if you are dealing with the thin textures. So this is a little bit on the harder side of the things that you can do. Also, there are some really nice hues around the eyes and the head and everything. This guy, all the like deep grays and deep colors in the shadows are really neat. And definitely one of the things that is extremely helpful is those like rim light kinda that is making the entire head much brighter on the top, the reflection of the light, because it just looks, it's pretty much what I need to make the entire head slightly more believable. It's usually just adding this like subtle, maybe not a rim light, but this like reflection of light. Basically it's like a Fresnel, I believe. This really does make a difference. And what is also cool, I can see how the eyes of the elephant look like. Pretty much want these guys to have similar vibe for the eyes. So a little bit older, a little bit like not wiser, but so those guys are not supposed to be like intelligent in any way. But I want those eyes to look like kind of like tired and almost empty. So I do feel it does fit to the entire character. All the wrinkles, how they would look like in those spots. This is the most interesting part. And always I can make like a small reflection of light, so to show that the eyes are kind of like on the wet side. And because also those guys most likely are all the time in the sun, I don't think Blackbird will actually be extremely black. I feel it will, the color will kind of wash out. Yeah, this is pretty much based on, like those monsters are based on the monsters from Heroes of Might and Magic 1, so so this is the Cyclops, the previous one that I did based on the thing. And this is the Goblin, but the Goblin I will change the environment for him because I got a really good feedback, but this will be like the last part. And also a Troll. So yeah, the Troll was I believe the first one, so yeah, but I plan to make the entire city. I mean, I plan to make the entire, all the creatures and then to maybe make a city. We will see how it will go. And also with the stomach, I do need to remember that my light source is on the right. So opacity a bit more to make the blending slightly easier. Glad you like it. Yeah, I also in this case try to kinda maybe not go all above my limits and everything, to not push myself too hard, but previously I was doing the Diablo redesign stuff, but I can't do those for like the reason at work and everything, but I decided I might as well like spend much more time on those than I usually would on something similar and just try to deliver something a little bit better than usual. I also enjoy rendering because I kind of do enjoy the rendering recently much more than I used to the previously. Also, if you are interested in the entire like recording of the previous streams is like on YouTube, so maybe at some point I will, maybe even this week, but I don't think I will keep the promise. I might just take the streams and edit them into like the full videos that are kind of like sped up processed videos, maybe some narration on top of those, so I will see. I'm still trying to finish the video about the brush, so I just can't bring myself to finish this one. And I think instead of like casting the shadow on this guy, I will first paint it without any shadows, and then I will just add the unified layer with the shadows. So I can also separate this arm entirely, so the rendering will be a bit sharper later. Yeah, and I kind of also want this guy to have like a proper gut, so he will be, you can look at his gut because it's gigantic. And actually separating the I mean, rendering the shapes first and then adding the shadow might make the entire thing a little bit more unified. So I think it's even like a good idea to approach it this way. I won't render the entire like chest area. I just want to like kind of render his like boob, part of the upper chest, because I will later cover it behind the hair anyway. So, and most likely the vast majority of the thing that you could see will be hidden. So yeah. But for stuff like this, the reference in form of the photo is really helpful, because it does make the visual aspect of it a little bit more easy to understand on what I might want to achieve. So yeah, and also for the shapes, this is pretty much how I want it to look like. So this is like the pec area, more or less. Here is the like clavicular delt will go pretty much like this. The tricep, forearm muscles, bicep, like this. But because he's fat, there will be some like fat tissue around here. And the gut, most likely I will also kind of like go a little bit more like this, because I kind of want to show that the fat is kind of like flowing over him. So from time to time it's okay, and like traps and the head. Yeah, sometimes it's good to do like this small type of a drawing, just to kind of like check if the things that you are doing are kind of correct, but it's not like a necessity. But from time to time it does help. Also, a lot of strongmen that are like on the top right now, because they tend to be slightly more on the thicker side. And all the power lifters, so it might be a good idea to sometimes even reference those. So for example, this guy, I have not the slightest clue. I mean, I do recognize him, but I don't remember what was his name. Grab it. Also a nice channel lifting vault. A lot of interesting stuff in there. But this is pretty much what type of a chest and build I want this guy to have. And the light setup is fairly similar. It's not identical, but it's not that far off, so you can kind of see what I mean about the fat layer of the pecs. So yeah. And sometimes just without the reference, it's not that it's impossible, but it's hard to get all those fine details if you never like drawn hundreds of those type of a guys, because it does require quite specific knowledge about the anatomy, how the body behaves. So every single time, if I can, I try to use some references for stuff like this, because it's just really convenient to do. Because it's hard to kind of imagine all those, like the shape of this type of a thing on the chest to happen, or even like the small rounding in here for the belly to appear. And of course, there's nothing that you couldn't later fix with the liquify or any other tool. But yeah, just to give myself a little bit more use. And also kind of a hatching type of a painting in here might work really nice, because it's like hatching in here might give me this kind of like the texture of the elephant skin on this fella. So, and this elephant type of a skin is something that I kind of want to have visible. And if possible, I would prefer to avoid using too many like auto textures on this guy. I kind of need to get better at rendering stuff on my own instead of like relying on textures and everything. So it's also a good exercise to test some brushes and everything to see how they do emulate certain effects. For example, this like marker brush, like it's good for making stains on skin and everything. But yeah. So in this case, those type of brushes as previously. Those work great because they give me the strokes that I want to have. This guy. They do give those colors that I might need. And it also gives me a little bit of a grain in a painting. Grain in a painting is something that's welcome to it because it just looks nice. Also, let me check how does the elephant knee looks like. Elephant walking. Also, because elephants are really big, some of the skin on the leg is quite loose. So I think at least it is loose. At least it looks like it's loose. So I think I might try to just emulate this feeling because I kind of want his leg to feel like heavy. And I really do enjoy those, like all the wrinkles and everything. I don't think I really want this guy to have like a perfectly visible muscles and everything because visually it won't make, hello Mikawai, because visually it won't make a lot of sense. So I think all the wrinkles and be better in here. But of course I need to keep in mind that it's still slightly more humanized, so all the colors are kind of tricky. Reflection, all the wrinkles and whatnot. So I do need to keep the reflections on this guy still. I think the wrinkles. Yeah, and because the leg is going kind of backwards, and I want him to have all this stuff on him, the entire lower leg will pretty much be fully in the shadow. I was kind of thinking about giving him like the normal type of a leg, but I kind of feel like giving him the elephant leg is a little bit more interesting. Definitely for storytelling, it's slightly more interesting to show the relation of this guy to the environment. Because he is like a heavy stomper, so it kind of even makes a little bit more sense for this guy to have this type of a leg, because it will show that he is not the fastest animal. I mean, because this like pretty much don't look really fast, but elephants generally are quite fast as creatures. So, but same for hippos. They don't really look fast, but they are extremely fast. So, but the visual aspect at least is in here. I also do enjoy the colors and the heaviness and everything. So. Perhaps cloth. The cloth I kind of want to be a little bit more worn. I want it to look more rugged and everything, and to make it look more squeezed in between his body. So, but also adding some different hues to it. So, for example, giving it a little bit more like grace and everything, and make it look like nicely old and everything. So the value, the general value won't really change that much, but the colors on the surface will look much better. The overlapping of everything should be I feel like the elephants are kinda cool and not really that used up creatures in design and everything. It's kind of like the I would say an obvious go-to while doing a giant or whatever, but I feel they're kind of rarely used in the entertainment industry. They're not the most obvious picks for some reason. In Magic the Gathering there are some elephants, but I don't think there are that many. And the only creature I can think of when thinking elephant in games are those elephant monsters in Dark Souls 2 that in this case look absolutely stupid in my opinion. I really never enjoyed those as creatures in Dark Souls 2. They look cool, but they really feel out of place in Dark Souls in this case. But yeah, all three also is a nice. All three, yeah, all three is also a nice idea for a bit of a different style for the creature. And actually, all trees were used in Dark Souls 2 for the giants also, so it does make sense. Also, for the scale for this guy, let me school, because I wanted this guy to have some schools on the side of him, because if you are like a school, and this is actually a little bit more interesting. It's definitely less obvious thing. So I want him to have some schools on the side, but never do what I did right now. I managed to connect this. But I feel like the gorilla school will be slightly bigger, and does it make sense for the gorilla school to be in here? Not really. I don't think that gorillas live in an environment like this. So maybe no, maybe the gorilla is not the best pick, but maybe for example lion school. Yeah, the gorilla was like the first pick, but the lion school is a bit more interesting. Let's grab some of those just to place those as a mock-up. And what is the size of the lion school? What is the size? Oh, okay. Whoa. Okay, this is a really cool photo in terms of for the scale. So yeah, those guys can be easily bigger. This is really interesting. I'm keeping this one as a reference. So let me grab a little bit more of the schools because I want to like maybe not 3 of them, maybe also. And also the famous photo of the Hippo school. And this is also interesting for the size and the scale. Holy shit. Okay, those schools are huge. This is really terrifying, so the Hippo school definitely is going to be used. Tolerance. This is neat. Because when you have a monster 99% of the time, easily, honestly, I had no idea about those myths, but this sounds really interesting. I would have to check those. Also, let me cover the blinds. Yeah, I have to cover the blinds. That is interesting. I will have to read some more about it. I never actually heard anything about ogres being turned into a slightly smaller hippo. I don't want the jaw to be open, or at least slightly rotated. Yeah, so now I'm also kinda, I said I don't want to photobash a lot of stuff into it, but the schools definitely, I want to photobash them. L. And also I can hear the kid of a neighbor scream. Slightly less saturation. The saturation for the old schools that are put a lot into a sun, they should be much whiter because the sun really washes out all the colors from the bone, as far as I know. So yeah, just keep it in mind. But I have to admit the school of the hippo is really cool. And it also really nicely shows the strength of the ogre. So okay. Of course I will have to like relate those guys to feed the general scheme in here. The easiest way to make something fit is to just like remove all the light from it to make it kind of like look flat, and then just relate it by hand. Make it basically like more unified. I mean, he kinda is a predator in a sense. And it's also one of the things that I can imagine if I would like be a huge guy like this guy. I would like to have some trophies of the things that I hunted. So yeah, it does make sense for him to kind of wear those, and it kind of looks a bit cooler. It might show maybe his social status or whatever. in my opinion, it's usually worth thinking about stuff like this when you draw or design something, because there's always usually there's a really easy way to. Yeah, here goes my not using photos. I just want this texture to be here. It looks quite cool. The darken mode is really cool for adding all the details from the photos, because it gives you a nice starting point, and you can always like saturate those a bit more. But yeah, like this, and I have to remove part from the ground because later I will be painting over those. So the area for his, so I can properly draw his like lower leg. Residues from the previous things are in here. Recently I started pressing a lot by accident key 4 on the keyboard, and it changes the opacity of the thing that I use. I don't know how many times I have done it already, but today it happened like 20 times. And there's something slightly changed about the way I sit or do things. The muscle memory just constantly goes number 4 while working. It's a bit odd, but yeah. Some rugs in here. And for stuff like leather and everything, I want it to be slightly more layered. So visually it's a little bit more interesting to look at. Later also I will try to find a nice texture with some like dirt. Let's reapply it on the cloth, so it will have the occasion to look much better. Animal bones and everything. Kinda want them to be tight. So I want those to have some like straps on them, so actually the mounting of those will make a little bit more sense. So this way I can make it a little bit more believable that he actually has them on him. But at the same time it will be a little bit more tricky to show it, because I want a lot of his like stomach to hide a lot of the areas from him. And also let me grab the reference for the arm. And the reference for the arm will be quite simple to be found, because basically the thing that he is doing is a front lat spread, but without flexing. So because it's without flexing, the muscles won't be as visible, but for example the brachyradialis, I believe, this pose will be be visible. Possible. Yeah, for the elephant tusks, I don't think it's a problem. I mean, I will add them most likely somewhere in here. Maybe even to his face. I will see how I will feel about the entire design. I will definitely test this idea. But yeah, I want to add a little bit more bones, and I think it's possible. Yeah, they will accept pretty much everyone. The portfolio thing is just for the checkups. I don't think I will go this year to the Promised Land because I thought they will have the early bird thing till the end of the month, as they said first. But now it turns out they are out of the early birds tickets and everything, and also they didn't really share a lot of info on who is going to be there or what is the plan for everything. So it's a little bit too cryptic for me, in my opinion, at this stage. So I don't think I will be attending this year Promised Land, but we will see. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm not saying 100% no, but at this moment it does not seem really that likely. Too many things are hidden, but definitely it's without any problems. Especially if you are going to search for some sort of a job or whatever, then it's definitely a good place to go, as all the events like those are good ideas because you can just like network a lot and you can meet a lot of cool people. What is like the most important thing if you want to get a steady stream of commissions or whatever? Just have to network, because if people don't know you exist, it's a bit harder to get into the industry and everything. So yeah, I think easily. And also they made the prices a bit higher than previously, so I know it's justified and everything, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. And I think also previously when they were announcing everything, like the last time they did the Promised Land, before you even bought before there was a possibility for the tickets, I feel like all the lineup and everything was already known. Now they kinda hide those info. They release this pretty rarely in a sense. Yeah, then it's definitely a good idea to go there. So true. This way it makes sense. But the only thing I dislike kinda about the Promised Land, it's because it's in Łódź. The city is so extremely boring. I do believe I said it previously, but of all the cities I have been in Poland, in my opinion, Łódź takes like the #1 spot for being the most boring city I have ever been in. And yeah. So if anyone in here is from Łódź, I'm sorry, but I absolutely don't enjoy the city at all. The thing to keep in mind in this case is the fact that when you draw, like this is pretty much the angle for the elbow. The elbow will be like sitting in here, quite big, and then you could see this thing. So I need to remember that I will see the side of the hand, I do believe. The hand would be slightly more tricky, so I have to keep it in mind. Mm-hmm. Yes, jestem Polakiem. But I usually don't do streams in Polish because of people not really understanding Polish that much. So I prefer to make them in English, then they're a little bit more, they're a little bit easier to be available for more people, especially since the vast majority of Polish people can speak English. So I don't think it's, and not a lot of people speak Polish. So yeah, there is that. Here this will be a little bit more tricky to do because I want to include the kinda the visibility for the muscles, but I don't really want to make him shredded because it simply makes zero sense to make him shredded. So I kinda have to find the balance for the thicknesses and for everything to render the muscles properly, and to later give it the feeling of the roundness with the textures and everything. So yeah. But the muscles, for example, like the brachioradialis should be slightly more visible. So I guess I will just layer a lot of lines on top of each other to give it this feeling of roundiness. So I need to remember that the light from the back will like lead the arm here, and basically the skylight will make it brighter here. So this is like one of the things that will make it pop from the background, and it's one of the things that I believe is the hardest one to learn how to actually properly use, and I also do kind of suck in using it, but this is what kind of I feel separates someone who can paint from someone who can't paint. In many cases, to render something nicely, to like have those light affect the skin. So for example, slight blue stuff in here. So fake it till you make it. In this case, I don't fully understand how it will look like and everything, but I'm going to try long enough that I will make it look okay to some degree. Yeah, those areas. Webs. And the important thing is actually, because it's really easy to forget it. If you are doing any type of wrinkles, the wrinkles don't go with the muscle; they will go across, like the muscle. So, for example, if you have a muscle attaching here and here, and it does shorten, then the wrinkles will appear like this. So yeah, just keep it in mind. So if the bicep is like from here to here, more visible from here to here, basically it's a tube. The wrinkles will go at the 90 degrees angle to the shape of the muscle. Yeah, honestly, I don't know what type of an accent I do have. But recently, with friends of mine, we discovered a really cool game to play because I was trying to put on some music and everything on a TV, and a friend of mine told me to just say it, like say the title of the video, and we were trying to say for like 30 or 40 tries to say Cannon's Hurricane, or however to pronounce it properly. Basically, like this thing. I believe Cannon's Hurricane, and it kept giving me the. So I need to write it on a separate layer before I write too many things and I can't Can't undo. And it keep telling me that we set, for example, hurricane or shuriken. And after like many different tries, one friend of ours, like we decided to use the Google Translate for it to say it for us to just see if the remote will understand the Google Translate saying this word, and it like understood it immediately. So we felt like, okay, it's just a matter of pronunciation. And one friend of mine got it like the first try when he tried to like copy one to one what the Google Translate said. So it's a relatively interesting game. Definitely, we are going to play it a little bit more. So yeah. Now I'm absolutely not sure how the light will behave on the forum. I feel like my thinking is really slow today. I'm starting to get hungry. So yeah. And now also this is the reason why you should rotate the canvas a lot, because it immediately makes it obvious that the entire chest area is warped in this different manner because it's above the horizon line. So the stress should be like going more to the more like this. We will see it more from the below because perspective and everything. This in the geometry of a hand could like follow this guy's angle. So in my case, instead of not. In my case, instead of drawing 4 knuckles, I will only draw 2. This guy has only like 3 fingers. So the knuckles will be much more massive, thicker. This, and the bit of the finger will be visible. So separation should be much more clear. Yeah, this hand does not look proper in any way. So most likely I will have to try to make it look better many times and study the thing a bit more. And I kind of feel the forearm now is a little bit too long, so most likely I will make the hand just bigger to make the forearm shorter at the same time. And also a cool thing, if you don't want to repaint some areas, just use spot healing brush tool. and it will generate the texture for you. So if you are cutting something out, then spot healing brush tool will actually take care of it. Now I do not want content overfill, also should work. It's the wrong layer. Spot healing brush tool. It's not perfect, but it also makes this nice texture, so it's good if you have to do like those separation type of things, because as you can see, it just nicely connects everything together. And now I can remove some of the stuff in here. Also, because this guy is on the fat side, there will be no like clear muscle separation as in here in this area. This will be more like wrinkly and everything. Because also I can imagine him having much more skin in his armpits than the typical gym enjoyer. And for all the wrinkles, I will be like reducing the opacity, because I want it to be slightly. I want the wrapping to be a little bit more visible. And this will actually also allow me to build the forms in a way that, for example, I can mark this muscle in here, because this muscle will be quite visible in the forearm if you, even if you are more thick, because it's hard to have like a fatty like elbow. It is possible, but it's a bit, I mean not elbow, like fatty this area. But now I can also like sculpt the forms with the wrappings and everything. I kinda want to make also this tricep area slightly more separated. Most likely, yeah. It will have some bones and everything in here. But at first I want to just render the body, make sure that the general light is okay, and then I will add all the details and everything, so I can follow the structures and everything. So as you can see, I managed to remove part of the knee, because it's much easier to add stuff when the base is okay, instead of like trying to paint everything at the same time. Usually it just like leads to a lot of problems later on. So yeah. Also, one of the things that's really easily that allows you to really easily see who can draw much better or draw much better is all the shapes and the shapes will basically be a little bit more interesting. In my case, the leg kind of looks like a stump. Not that interesting as a shape, so I feel there is a lot of things that could be improved in here. And clearly shows where I lack skills and whatnot. Types of the tasks. So it's not as organic as I would like it to be, but I would say it's more on the like, simple side. And I kind of stopped liking how big the stomach is. The arm, I think, should be higher. I will do the beard on the separate. Well, it's like pop-ups. hair, so we'll know more or less how much I want to hide. Because adding like decorations and everything to the beard area it will be a simple task. So first I just want to make sure the thickness of the beard is in here. Then I can play a bit more with the renders. There's 80%. I was wondering why it felt so off. Let me move this butler to the top, so I will make sure that the entire beard is covering everything beneath it, and what a nice. This is also the type of a weapon I would like him to use, so let's just grab it to have like a base for it. And yeah, I'm going back with the thing that I want to paint everything, because I also thought that I would like to finish this challenge like at some point. So I guess just using photos is the way to actually be able to finish it. So without them, I don't think I will succeed. Also, I have to admit, today I have a lot of luck in searching for the good photos immediately. It's a really rare thing that I get so many cool photos almost on the spot when I want to have them. This part set above. Also, this photo is really cool for photo bashing because it's basically devoid of any light on it. Basically, it looks like a flat texture, which is really nice for relighting it. It made the entire thing much easier. So I can really easily readjust it. And because he is like pointing it downwards, basically the entire shadow will be pretty much like the color of the ground with some different hues. I'll place it to multiply and adjust it in a second. Multiply, make the grab slightly more proper. Here. I also really like this like deep shadow. Now I kind of think I should. Maybe next one I will try to just like block out fully with like a flat colors and then just put a huge like shadow shape on it. to kind of work a little bit more like a 3D rendering engine, so just like do a flat version of the painting, then readjust it. Actually, most likely give me the best results I can imagine. Basically, working like a 3D engine is always a good idea while painting. It's very consistent. The effects. And yeah, the hand. This guy and this needs to go below the body. It's also kind of hard to imagine all the like subtle shapes that could happen in here because he's like, I would say, so thick that not a lot of stuff is happening in here. But this might be what really does separate me from the people who know how to draw much better. Also actually try cast a shadow on this fella from the arm using the same colors. So you can imagine this will cast a shadow kind of like this. It does look like a dirt. This hue does not work at all. Overlay? No. I will have to figure out the shade for it a bit better, but it does mean this color also is not really that good. This is slightly better. This is also one of the things that I always felt is a bit odd. That you can use like a photo texture, but then you actually have to like paint on the photo, so to remove like the finer details and everything, so it can look more photorealistic because you just simplified everything on it to make it look better. It's kind of fun. Cool thing about stuff like this is, as you can see, even in this photo, near the edge where you render everything, it looks like it's almost white. This is one of the things that, in my opinion, are the hardest to like get properly, because it just requires this like knowledge about the light, like when it will happen, how strong it will be, and this is also one of the reasons why I highly suggest always to use some references. Because otherwise it's just almost impossible to get this right. So for example, this in the midtones brighter, this kind of works as intended because it brings it to this like white hue, white level. But on the other hand, I don't know if it's like a proper thing to do. One of the ways you can also kind of cheat it is to just like increase the brightness and to decrease the output level of a copy, to do something like kind of like this, and then to just like remove this area. This is also kind of like guessing on how the colors will behave on the edge, but this is like the faster way. Get like this edge type of a reflected light. But I guess it does work. A bit too bright though. I really enjoy the shape of this log. This whatever. It is kind of big. The texture should be much more delicate because the guy that I'm painting is quite huge, so there should be more texture to it. But the general shape I feel is really nice. I especially like this opening in here. And again, this is like the type of a thing that is really heavy texture, so using some brushes that create this texture is pretty much a necessity. But I kind of feel this guy is coming up nicely. Also, if you have like a dead wood, that is, yeah, basically if you have like a dead wood that is exposed to the sun, similarly to the bone, it will get much whiter. Actually, when you can see, this is one of the things that is really often used while doing the bonsai trees, that they have this sulfur something thingy that makes the wood much brighter, because it just makes it look more elegant. And I do fancy that the log will be shaped a bit like his leg. It will be a bit more visually consistent this way. And in the later stages I will just add a lot of different things to the maze, like straps or some other details and what. Give him again some crazy hair. I don't know if I want him to be like Hagrid, maybe. Smaller amount of hair. Something like this. Where he has like this separation. Yeah, the separation does work. It will reveal a bit more of the tits. Maybe some belts. Maybe in here, maybe I should actually plan first the brights and everything, because he might have like here. the thick, really rudimentary one, but bright nonetheless. And I like more with the dwarven appearance on him. But it will actually allow me to add a lot of cool looking details to him as a monster, because all the fetishes and everything that can hang on him now can be visible. Nice. So stuff like this. The traps will push her out a bit more. Here not much change. But yeah. The general idea of him being almost bold is a way to go. And later I'll figure out where I want the ear to be. Just now I can't think about it. If I want him to have it hidden in the hair, it will make sense that it's like somewhere in here hidden. So maybe he has like a really delicate ears and he protects them naturally with the thick layer of hair. The central part of the beard I want to be like this. And of course also this is one of the things that will cast some shadow onto him. So that will actually give a lot of shadow. His body. It won't be as even as it is right now, but just to keep it in mind, it will increase the contrast on his chest area. I think I want the belly to be slightly less inflated, so it will like hang a bit more. It's not necessarily he has to have like really round belly. I do believe recently I have seen a concept of someone who did a 3D model of some sort of a fat guy, but I don't remember who did it. I might later search for it, where you could really nicely see how uneven the thickness was with his body, and it looks really cool, but I absolutely don't remember who did the model. I will have to. Yeah, he is. But he most likely is a bit dumber. And if you are slow and a troll is a little bit more athletic, he can just outrun you and just throw rocks at you, which kind of puts you in a heavy disadvantage. And the Cyclops can shoot a laser out of his eye, which also I feel is a bit more reliable thing at killing someone than just smashing him with a mace. Because if you can just like laser beam someone from the distance, it does give you quite a lot of maneuver advantage, or the tactical advantages. And even though he's fat, I feel like making the abs slightly visible, because he might have a lot of like fat tissue all over him, but even the strongman, they still do have quite a powerful core. If you are just like walking and swinging the mace and everything and whatnot, the core most likely is on the stronger side. around. I just want him to be standing on some sort of a rock. I had a little bit more elaborate plan for the environment, but I try to keep it a bit simpler, but to also convey some sort of a story. Oops, I forgot this is the same layer. And I forgot. And to make it slightly more interesting, try to avoid duplicating the shapes to make like one continuous curve. Try to kind of like break it somehow, some way. Some more shape to it. But I honestly don't feel like thinking right now. Rock to be somewhat slanted with some of the details on it. And with stuff like those, try to not add only like one object. If you can, it almost always will look better if you add like 2 or 3 stones or whatever. Also, we should be able to see a bit of the top for the rock because the rock is under the horizon line, so it would make more sense to make it slightly visible. And also for the rocks and whatnot, giving them a nice like different textures and different hues and colors, so greens, reds, stuff like this, most likely it will make the entire thing look a bit more interesting. So let's keep it in mind that stuff like rocks and whatnot are like really varied in colors. I think instead of like on this type of a ground, nah, makes sense. I'm leaving him on this type of a ground. So I thought maybe making the ground a little bit more like sand-like will be a better idea, but on the other hand, then it won't be really that consistent with the rest of the works. I know it's not the most important thing to be like 100% consistent, but I kind of want it to be a little bit consistent anyway. So yeah, the thing is now I have to figure out the way to populate also the background in more of the rocks and whatnot, so I can just like duplicate those a bit. Let's experiment with more interesting shapes. It's one of the things, one of the feedbacks that I got for this series is to show a bit more interesting stuff with the background. Well, and yeah, to keep the cloud. Can I just place it on screen now? I recently took a really nice pictures of some clouds on my place. They looked really nice because for this guy, I kinda want him to pop out more from the background with like this type of a cloud behind him. Whoops. Now also when I place this photo, I kinda like this color of the sky a bit more. Looks slightly more natural. The one that I had is a bit too, maybe it's not, yeah, it's a little bit too artificial. The blue does not have this nice hue to it as in this one, so I might just change it. We will see if it does work. This place is a bit better. This cloud. Now we can go with so I do feel it should be a bit brighter. This kinda kills it. I also at the same time don't really want to overexpose the sky, because overexposing the sky is usually not the best idea. Doing stuff like this is okay-ish. And painting the clouds usually is really tricky. You have to consider a lot of different things at the same time. Right now I'm not fully convinced this is the way to go here. But I will keep it for now, just to have context for it, but I don't think I do like cloud behind his head. I feel like he looks much better on the bit more empty background. Yeah, definitely I do like this hue much more than the previous one. To benefit the rest of the illustrations nicely. Okay, also for the foreground, right, this rock from here, because I need to add much more of those rocks and everything. This is kind of why I'm making series like this is a bit harder, because you just have to think on like these different ways that I usually don't think in. Because at one point I want to make something cool, but on the other hand I want to make something consistent with something else, and in the end, like I start to overthink way too much, way too many things. It's just a huge problem, and I can't seem to be able to think on anything slightly more creative while doing the live streams. I don't know why. Let me check some references. Around. Also, one of the things that might be slightly problematic, because, and why I feel this is odd, the fact that he does not cast any shadow on the ground. So in the Cyclop layer, I do have the shadow layer. So let me just grab it real quick. Here. Oops. No. It just has to be below the dude. Current layer. Just cast the shadow from him. This dude is quite big, so the shadow will also be quite big. Later I can repaint the shadow, but it will be more like this. But now when I'm looking at it, I kind of feel like the shadow should be much warmer. Darker. No, maybe not. Too many things that I feel are way off with this one. I don't know if the rocks make a lot of sense in the area like this. I feel like they can be beneficial for the painting, but they also create a lot of negative different shapes and whatnot. So in this case, also a huge part will be like the last adjustment, where I will just hide almost everything. Some like strands of the grass. For the second window, you just go to window, arrange. You can see it. It's in here. You go to the window, arrange, new window for troll rendering in this case, and then to up vertical, and But you can't go full screen then, because if you go full screen, then only one screen will be visible. So you can't work on full screen this way. Kind of feel like maybe it does work. All the smaller rocks and whatnot added to it. But the thing is, as I said, whoops, if I will go to the top, just this should be on the top, right. I will just obscure a lot of the things with the grass. Then it also will look really different. The grass will make a lot of difference. And here also brushes like the ones I used for the beard are really helpful, because you can just like paint all the strains much quicker. It makes it slightly more uniform with the shape and everything, but it's not necessarily the bad thing. But just to keep it visually a bit more interesting at this moment, I will add it as a sketch kinda of. And also I just rotated the screen because it's a little bit more comfy to draw the grass from top to the bottom to the top, at least for me. Oh, and also don't remember that some of the strands of grass will be much longer, some of those will be much brighter. So yeah. I thought maybe it won't work nicely, but now when I added all the strands and everything, I feel it started looking much better. Especially if I add some of the those horizontal lines in the background for all the rocks and everything. It does make it look a bit more interesting. Oh, and the Gragas. A friend of mine told me he looks a bit like a Gragas body-wise, so yeah, that is true. And I also know the similar thing with his beard. So yeah, definitely a bit more Gragasy. Yeah, so definitely for the things that I want to keep in there for later, give him some like bones protruding here and there. Maybe even tasks. Horns not, but task is an idea. I might keep them. They shouldn't go much further. Could keep those like make them a little bit more uneven. That's good somehow. I don't really enjoy it, but this I wanted tasks. what I want to remember to give him is the wrap on the arm, some of the smaller bones on here, give him some sort of like bicep type of a cloth, also with some like bones, maybe some smaller skulls with some smaller animals here, some wraps hang a bit more. This could get some love. Maybe even some, this is kind of casual, but sometimes you have this like this type of a detail in some orcs or whatnot when they like pierce their skin. Nah, try those here. Some bones here. Definitely for the mace, have like the proper handle. On it, let's out whatever. 3, maybe 1. Here, some random smaller skull can be here to make the entire thing a bit more full. Stomach is should have a bit more light on it also. A bit of the light, it's not fully in the shadows. Yeah, I think I will call it a day and continue with this guy on the next stream that I hopefully will do faster than in like a month from now. So that will be it for today, I do believe. I guess almost 2 hours or over 2 hours, I don't know, but we'll see. Some progress is made, some is not. But I feel he is coming up nicely. I guess at some point I will just have to plan everything, sketch a bit more on top of it, like increase the complexity of the entire design. Maybe to make this tool a bit smaller because it's a little bit overwhelming right now to figure out some finer details and all the other things that he can have on himself, and then to just finish him. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, leave a like, leave a comment. Everything is in the description, all the links for the Discord server and whatnot. So yeah, I will do it like privately later because I don't really feel like thinking at the moment. I guess I'm too tired at this point. So yeah, tomorrow maybe I will do it. So yeah, but not now. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching and see ya.